This episode of the Fly Fishing Insider podcast is sponsored in part by Waterworks Lamps and Fly Reels. Looking to upgrade your fly reel? Upgrade to a Waterworks Lamps and Reel today. Try the all-new Waterworks Lamps and Lightspeed F and feel the difference. For more information on Waterworks Lampson, visit waterworkslampson.com. Now let's get back to the show. Hey listeners, it's Greg from the Fly Fishing Insider podcast. I just wanted to go through a bit of housekeeping before we jump into today's episode. So first and foremost, hey, if you have not yet hit subscribe, like, or commented on the podcast, please reach out to wherever you do your podcasts and hit subscribe. That would really help us out. We appreciate it. It gives us the ability to move forward and tells us sort of what we want in our shows, the feedback from you guys, the listeners as well. So definitely, if you could hit subscribe, leave a comment or a rating or a review, we would so appreciate that. So lastly, our lodge program. If you're a lodge and you're listening, this is for you. Our program's proven, it works, it gets you guests, gets you bookings. Reach out to us, ask about our lodge program, see the difference for yourself. We only have a few spaces with that, so if you are a lodge, you're going to want to jump on that sooner rather than later. And lastly, we have a lot of great stuff coming down the pipe for you guys this year, and I can't wait to jump into all that sort of stuff, and lots of great opportunities with the Fly Fishing Insider podcast for the listeners as well. So, but let's jump into today's episode and today's show. Welcome to the Fly Fishing Insider podcast. I'm your host, Greg Keenan. This is season 3 of the Fly Fishing Insider podcast. In this episode, we aim to bring you the biggest and best stories from those who work and make our fly fishing industry truly great. The Fly Fishing Insider podcast dives deep into the past, present, and future of all our guests, uncovering their amazing stories and journey. Join us each week as we interview a new podcast guest. Also, if you're new to the show or not yet a subscriber, make sure you hit subscribe after this episode. Welcome to the Fly Fishing Insider podcast. Today's guest, Drew Allman from Tycraft. Drew, welcome to the show.
Hey, it's great to be here. Thank you so much for having me. This is super exciting. Yeah,
likewise. I mean, we're all loving what you're doing over there, and you got some great products coming out over at Tycraft. So before we jump into all that, let's just jump into a bit about you and your background, as I always do with my guests. How did you get into fly fishing? How long you been doing it? What turned you onto it, and what got you into the industry? I know it's a lot.
Yeah. It's I don't know. It's kind of hard to figure out exactly where to say that I started, because it's I remember picking up a fly rod when I was about 12 years old, and a buddy of mine, we had this pond, this neighborhood pond that initially we'd, just spin cast, bass fishing, fishing for bass. And, I don't know how we both discovered fly fishing, but together we decided bass was actually bass and carp were the only things that were in this water. So we'd just be throwing poppers and all that. And of course, at the time, little did we know that carp fishing was going to become a thing. But, we're sitting there trying to throw poppers, at these gigantic 4 feet long carp as well. Had no idea that it'd become a thing that it is now. But so that's how I got started. There was a pretty long lull in between then and when I really started to pick it up again, when I moved to Colorado in the early 2000s, and, really got into it then and loved just the meditation of it and the relaxation, also the challenge. And, I had kids and life priorities get in the way. I pretty much kind of, I still would try and fish whenever I knew I was going to be by a river, but it was not something that, I went out of my way, just because, having little kids and all that, you don't have a whole bunch of time. But, what's been great is I moved up to a place in the mountains in west of Boulder, and really has enabled me to pursue that passion again. And it's just been, unlike any drive that I had before with fly fishing, and now it really is an obsession. And yeah, I don't know what I would do without it.
I just loved hearing your journey, and you finally got to where we want to be, as you admit that it's an obsession. The life cycle of the fly fisher getting to where they need to be, and then finally coming out saying, you know what, I'm obsessed with this. I think we're all there as well. So for sure, Drew.
Without a doubt.
So here you are. You're living in beautiful Colorado. Trout fishing. I know you trout fish with Landon Mayer quite a bit, or Landon as well. So tell us about some little behind the scenes stuff. Tell us about some trips with Landon here, just really quickly.
Yeah, Landon's just a tremendous guy. The very first time I met him, I remember him saying, he loves fly fishing, and yeah, it's a means to an end for him, but it really, for him, it really is about giving back. And, it's provided a way for him to make a living and do something that he loves. And when I first met him at the Cayman Fund, film deal that Fly Fishing Magazine put on, I started talking to him about this idea and, this idea for these fly tying desks. And, he was like, hey, let's get together. Let's chat about this. And over time we developed a friendship because we're both, just constantly, our minds are just not stopping about how to get better and how to, give back and what we can do to make our products the best that they can be. And obviously his is more information and teaching, and obviously mine is a physical product, but, we're always, talking on the phone about, trends in social media, trends in the industry, up and coming, influencers and things like that. And out on the water, it's a whole other thing. That guy is insane. I mean, what you don't realize is he wrote this book, Sight Fishing for Trout, amongst others, numerous other great books. And when a guide, a professional writes a book about something, nymphing or whatever, you think, yeah, okay, this person is good at this, but what you don't understand is the knowledge required to write a book and have this volume of knowledge is so extensive that to write a book on sight fishing for trout, it really made sense that that's his most popular book, because that is Landon. Whenever you go out fishing with him, like he'll be like, oh yeah, there's a fish, da 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 da, and you look, and even if you're excellent at sight fishing, like you're like, yeah, I don't see it. He's like, yeah, that potato chip looking thing, they're 20 yards out or whatever, and he's just, I mean, he's a master. Apparently, he used to go fishing, like when he was in middle school, and he would go up to 11 Mile, which is just a river here, a stretch of the South Platte, and he'd just go up there for days. And he would take a tent, and he and his brother would go up there and camp and fish for days on end. And it's no surprise that all of that effort and all of that time led to such an expertise.
Absolutely. Well said. Definitely well said. Couldn't agree more with that. One of the things that you mentioned, which is really cool, is about educating and giving back. And the reason why I asked that question is because I know that you like to give back, and you do so in a way with your products, and you give back in a really cool aspect of supporting Landon with his tying and other tires and whatnot. So I do want to get into what tie craft is, and how you came about to start this brand or this business that's done so well and it's taken off.
It's been a long journey. I mean, I used to have a job in the quote real world. I was in outside sales and did that for 12 years, and then, had this health thing. It was just a bum hip in essence, but, I didn't really know if I was going to be able to walk normally again. And, things ultimately got better, but, I had this perspective that I just couldn't shake, that life was so short. I quit my job and I started making furniture, and I had zero idea what I was doing. And, as I've said to many people before, if it weren't for two things, I mean, one of them, reclaimed wood, because I can sit there and screw up all day long and no one's going to know, because all of the flaws are hidden, in this imperfect medium. But also YouTube. I mean, I was an apprentice to YouTube, and I had no idea what I was doing. And, I just put up a website and, got customers and learned as I went along. But, I really didn't feel, I loved what I was doing. I loved making mid-century pieces and rustic pieces and the whole design, and really getting into that. But it just didn't feel right. And I had been looking for something that I could just really focus on, and it was more narrowed, because I was making anything for anybody, as long as it was cool and not boring. Yeah, I'm sitting there tying at my kitchen table, kind of uncomfortable because the height isn't perfect, and all my crap is scattered all over the place. And I'm like, what am I doing? Like, this is what I should be doing. This is, I should be creating something, that is in line with, my values and what I love, and so on and so forth. And, I didn't jump right into it. I looked around to see what was out there online, if anybody else was doing it, because as much as I loved it, I'm not going to jump into something that has, insane amounts of competition, and all of that.
Of course.
And I looked, and I was shocked. The same industry that is creating all of these diverse products with a sophisticated consumer in mind has no solution for someone that wants to sit down and tie a fly. There's nothing out there that reflects their sophistication and things of that nature. And so at that point in time, I was like, I am definitely going to do this, and I created a website. But, at that point in time, I still didn't feel comfortable just diving right in. I needed to figure out, like, what really makes a fly tying desk. Because, like I said, I'm sitting there tying at my kitchen table. I can't really be the expert on this thing without really knowing. So I spent so many hours going to fly tying events and things like that. Do they have these in BC where some of the latest and greatest and renowned fly tyers show up and sit there and tie flies, and you could sit down with them and see how they do their deal? Do they do that?
You know what, we and I say we because I was involved with the BC Outdoors trade show or industry show that was supposed to take place last year. However, COVID took that away, but we did have a bunch of tyers from all over the province, as well as down from Washington State and all that were going to come up and sit at desks and just tie and have the consumers ask questions or film or learn from these tyers. And I think there was about 30 of them that were coming up and coming to this event. So nothing that I know of in place to answer your question as of now, and hopefully going forward in the future there is.
Okay, but they have. Yeah, you're familiar with this concept where you have these professional, amazing, badass tyers that are sitting there teaching people the craft. Okay, so they have these all over the metro area, and so I would show up like with the pad and paper, not with a vice, not with all of the things necessary to tie a fly, but I would sit there. And I would talk to Rim Chung, the guy who designed the RS2, and Rick Takahashi, and Pat Dorsey, and Landon. And I would just sit there and I'd be like, what is a fly tying desk to you? Like, is it this? Is it this? If I took this away, would it still have what you needed? If I added this, is this something that makes it essential? So I spent so much research.
That's what it is. It's market research.
In coming up with exactly. But and that kind of has a negative connotation. But I would just sit there and figure out what it was before I even started it, and then from that information, I started creating different models and so on and so forth.
Well, I'm going to chime in here for a second and say that's because you did your homework, and that's why your business is successful, because you found the niche and you researched something and said, hey, like, you know what I mean? As opposed to just jumping in and saying, let's just do this, which, you don't
want
work.
Someone saying, you don't want someone saying, what's the difference between this and any other desk?
Exactly. And when they look at your desk, I mean, it's clear, you can clearly see that, which we're going to get into, but absolutely. So then, Drew, like, you've done this market research, you've talked to some of the biggest hiring names in tying, you've got ideas, you've got your R&D down. Walk me through how you start getting desks. Like, how did you come up with the concept of the wood that you're getting, the live edge, all that sort of stuff?
Well, that was kind of part of the research as well, but a lot of it, like what people don't realize, is what I bring to the design of the desk is some of my own personal preferences as a craftsman, and I love mid-century modern. And for those that don't know what mid-century modern is furniture from the 60s primarily that is really simple. It doesn't have all the curly cues and stuff like that. But a lot of your quote modern looking furniture nowadays is based on that particular design and that particular influence and so on and so forth. But honestly, I let the market decide. I read magazines, a lot of them from like European periodicals. I read Dwell magazine, which is an architecture magazine, and things like that to try and stay on top of what the latest trends are. But one of those is the live edges, and if I love this mid-century look, but a lot of people like the live edges, including me. How do I bridge these two together? Mm-hmm. And so one way that I do that is, it sounds stupid, but just with the handles, like super minute details. But if you look at my handles, they're made from angle iron steel, which in essence is just a 45 degree piece of steel. I don't know how else to describe it, but it kind of has this industrial feel and that rustic look of the live edges. Mm-hmm. And mixed with the mid-century modern, it seems like you kind of have this, this old school meets new school, and that's why I chose those handles. But it's not just live edges. I mean, I've made fly tying desks out of concrete. I've made them out of reclaimed wood, and that's what's awesome about the experience I had making custom furniture for 7 years before I did this. Doing anything for anybody is that if anybody comes to me and they're like, I want this, then I can do it. And so, what you see on the website isn't the full breadth of what we can do. It just is a reflection of like I said, letting the market decide, and people out there, that's what they want. And that's what I do primarily.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah. I know we've talked about things as well off air, and you do have that flexibility to create masterpieces for certain demographics and consumers that are interested in that. So definitely worth. I'm glad you brought that point up for sure. So Drew, you got your desk, you got everything going on. What are one of the things that I love about your product and your desk is the complement. Like, it complements the fly tying station. Do you know what I mean? It's the finishing touches, the compliment. What's some of the feedback in addition to what I've just said? Like, what are some of the feedback that tires and the desk owners are saying about your products?
Yeah, it's really humbling, honestly. A lot of people literally just before we got on the phone, I'm crating up this desk, about to send it out. this guy, dropping all kinds of expletives about how blinking excited he is for this. It's just, I don't know. It's so weird. It's not just a desk.
No,
I mean, it really
it's
isn't.
not. Agree.
It's so weird to me because I hate to say this, but I tie as a means to an end. I tie flies so that I can use those flies to catch fish. And a lot of that is because what I do for a living occupies the same part of my brain that tying flies does. And so, I don't necessarily have the exact same experience as everybody else, but what I keep hearing and what I know is that this, you can get a desk from anywhere. I mean, there's nothing wrong with picking up a desk on Craigslist and putting that to use. I will say there's the functional aspect of it where, if you're okay having, your Plano tackle boxes with your beads and your hooks stacked on top of each other and kind of rummaging through to get to the stuff, it's a lot cheaper than getting a tie craft desk, but you aren't going to have that functionality. You aren't going to have the integrated thread storage in the top drawer or the mount for your tablet that you can put directly on the top, so you can tie flies and watch your videos. But it really is more than that. Tying is the next best thing to being on the water. But the question is, do you want to be tying in a gravel pond in the middle of a city, or do you want to be tying in a mountain stream? Mm-hmm. And by having, a custom tie craft desk, this is your space. This is your refuge. This is like your studio. Mm-hmm. And when you have something that's custom made for you, when you sit down, you get lost in the art. Everything like disappears, and that isn't the case with a Rubbermaid card table or whatever. I mean, this is something that's untangible. This is something that money can't buy. I mean, in this instance, it is, but you're not buying a product. You're buying the experience. But the experience comes with great storage and all of these amazing things. But it's just, it really has been humbling hearing, people's stories about how this really, how this has made their place their sanctuary.
Oh, I could totally agree. And I can relate to that. I mean, to some degree, as I'm building my own right now, which is how we got connected, me asking you questions and all that sort of stuff. And I look at it and I'm just like, it is an extension of who you are. It is my sanctuary. It is what I want. And the fact that you do these and you can do customs and you do the inlay and you put the I don't know how to do the epoxy stuff, but those river, those are phenomenal. Yep. And that's all personalization. And that is like, no one else can have that. And you're providing that. And that's just totally cool. So for sure. I know, I was hoping some lodges, have they, I mean, this is definitely the way to go. It's because they're feature pieces. I mean, if a lodge ever wanted to reach out and whatnot and do that, I think that would be a great avenue to go. So what are some of the other avenues, with that being said, what are some of the other avenues that you are going in the directions that you are going with the brand? And I know you have some other products. So I want to ask you that question. But before you answer, I want to hear a quick shout out to our show sponsor. This podcast is sponsored by All Alaska Outdoors. Looking for the ultimate fly fishing adventure in Alaska? Then try the best with All Alaska Outdoors. All Alaska Outdoors offers anglers and hunters many different packages to suit their angling and hunting needs. In 2019, the Fly Fishing Insider had the opportunity to visit All Alaska Outdoors and experience the hospitality and adventures. We fully endorse this lodge, but see for yourself at allalaska.com. Again, that's allalaska.com. Now let's get back to the show. Hey, Drew, we're back.
Awesome. Those lodges, I've seen photos. Those are pretty dope.
Yeah, they're pretty cool. I mean, it's a great feature piece because it's a conversation piece. You walk in, you have a custom desk. And I mean, that's the feature. You're tying your fly that's specific to that river, to that body, to that watershed that you're fishing. It doesn't matter whatever the watershed that you're fishing. And that desk is one of a kind. Those are conversation pieces for lodges. And I truly think that's for sure where it's at. So with that, my question prior to that to our sponsor there was, what's next? What other products do you guys offer?
Yeah. As a continuation on the point of the market research, I mean, one thing, I will say is, we are constantly listening to our clients and getting their feedback on what they feel is important. And so, a lot of the stuff that we do, I wish I could take credit for it, but it's actually just listening to people. And so, in listening to people, we have really gotten, the message that, clearly storage is important. We've talked about the function and the form and so on and so forth. The form is great, but if you don't have the function, then, it's kind of worthless. So, we have the form down, but with regard to the function, we're just about to launch 2 new models of desks. One that has 10 drawers in there in the cabinet, and the top 8 are really short stacked, like 1.5 inches deep, which is amazing because that really allows you to store your hooks and your beads and all that, and not stack everything on top, and just really master the organization because, these fly tying spaces can really get to be a disaster quickly. So that aids in that. The bottom 2 drawers are deeper drawers, but, all of the drawers have dividers in them that really help you master your organization. But, sometimes one cabinet really isn't enough. And so we're just about to launch a desk that has a cabinet on the left and the right, so you can double the amount of storage. This actually was first done by Charlie Creighton. I made a desk for him, and he liked this industrial look that I had done for someone that was made out of reclaimed wood rail car flooring, but he wanted to add yet another cabinet onto the other side. So we did that, and we just heard amazing feedback on that. So we are going to start launching that desk probably within the next couple months here. There's another thing is that, some people already have a tie-craft desk, and, it isn't enough, even if they have the double storage. And so we're actually going to start an entire new line of storage cabinets,
Okay.
Not to make them sound so institutional, but, beautiful, whether it be walnut or maple or cherry or whatever the case may be, storage that's kind of like a dresser armoire or whatever, with, those same dividers in there that really allow you to break up your space, so you can have better mastery over your storage. I'm actually about to do one here for Landon in the next couple months. And I'm actually interested. I'm working on conversations with Blaine Chocolate right now, and hope to be making a desk for him soon, and maybe that'll breed yet another model. But just kind of another illustration of how we listen to people and we try and put their visions into action to create other products.
Absolutely. I didn't know you guys were doing the armoire stuff. What prompted that?
Just the fact that there are some people. I mean, there are a lot of people where it's not just your fly tying desk that you have there. This is your fly tying room. And if you look at some of these photos on Instagram of some of these people's rooms, they're disasters. They're just
Yes.
total
Yes, they
disasters.
are. Yeah.
I mean, what does yours look like? Is yours perfectly nice and organized?
You know what? I'll take a picture. Yeah. Because ours is in the studio, right? Because we film in the studio. That I have the podcast and the our video
Yep.
studio as well. So it's always pretty clean in here. The stuff is in neat little compartments, all that sort of stuff. So it is clean. Yeah.
Well, you're the rarity. Have you seen some of these photos?
I have. Oh yeah. Like I mean, I have seen some photos where I'm like, dude, instead of time flies, you should spend it's like, hey, I time flies for 4 hours tonight. You should spend 4 hours just cleaning your room and then go back to time flies. Because I've seen them. They're just a mess. I mean, thousands of dollars worth of material just, lying around. I have seen it.
Totally.
And I think that's actually pointing that out. You know what? Just knowing where your material is will save you money in the long run as well. Did I have black thread? Do I not have black thread? You know what I mean? Like, going out and purchasing those things and being well organized. And truly, I know for a fact, speaking to a ton of tires and having a tying team, the number one thing they say is organization speeds it up and you get more productivity in a session by being organized and doing things in like batch. Do you know what I mean? Batch tying and stuff like that. So
no doubt. Well, it's like woodworking. Yeah. You got to do that. I mean, you got to do all your milling before you sit there and you do your joinery and whatever. Yeah. If you haven't, you do it in batches. It's a lot quicker. So yeah. So these cabinets really, are a way for people to get a handle on their obsession of all of their materials. And it's a nice way to make sure, because I mean, again, if you have the Craigslist desk, there's
Mm-hmm.
nothing wrong with that.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have a different goal for the look of your room, then you probably want your stuff to somewhat look similar.
Mm-hmm.
And so to have an option there where you can get your storage and it matches your desk, or even if it's not a Tycraft desk, say you already bought a nice desk from somewhere else and you still want something to match it. With the experience that I have, it's we can bring that to the clients.
Absolutely. No, I agree. One of the things you mentioned, which kind of stuck with me, and it just made me think about one of our prior conversations, was you mentioned about the reclaimed railwood. What was it? Reclaimed railway wood?
Rail car flooring.
Rail car flooring.
Yeah.
And then you also mentioned to me about this like amazing. What was it from the Gorge? Tell me about that.
I think this is actually from Red Rocks Amphitheater. So I have kind of like the fly tire that has all kinds of stuff stored away for a special occasion. I have things like that. A piece of metal trim that's going to go on a desk that's taken down from a building in Denver from the mid 1800s. Things like that, but my pride and joy, and there's some people out there who may not know what Red Rocks is, but Red Rocks is a music venue that is, in essence, an amphitheater that was, created naturally, with these red rocks that are thrust up through the ground, kind of like a spaceship about to take off, and it's just a really iconic venue. I'm trying to think. U2 actually got their start there. They had already kind of been around, but they did this epic concert that is since been referred to as under a blood red sky. But there's amazing shows there, and so I was able to get a piece of wood from one of the benches there that still has the seat number kind of deal on the piece of wood. And so I'm waiting for that special situation when, either I have someone who's a huge music fan or something like that, to talk about a fly tying station, which we talked about as well. We'll have to get into that, but, they want a fly tying station, then I can make I can make them a fly tying station out of a piece of wood from Red Rock. It still has the chewed up gum on the underside of it. I'm trying to figure out if I leave that on there, and maybe I'm just going too far. But it. What do you think? Would you be a with gum or without gum guy?
Epoxy it in. So I guess the question truly now is, Drew, is Bono, if you're listening, I mean, long shot. What time to reach out? Time to start tying some flies, on those private planes. No time like the rest, like now. So, you got.
I'm your guy. I'm your guy.
You bet. Right. I love it. So, really cool how you can bring that in. So if someone has a piece of history from, a family building or whatever, you can build that into your Tycraft desk, which is a really cool feature. It takes it to that next level and makes things more personalization and truly one of a kind, like we talked about. I can't express that enough because that's exactly what you're getting. So in that little piece there, you mentioned about a fly tying station. What do you mean? There's something different than a desk?
Well, yeah, as we discussed a while back. I'm on a mission to change people's references when it comes to where they tie flies. I hate when people call these desktop tying, what I call stations. I hate it when they call them a tying bench, because you're not going to put it on the ground and sit on it. You're not going to put it on the ground and stand on it. It has no function whatsoever from a furniture perspective, but some dude who I swear I need to hunt down and punch him in the face, decided to make these things and call them a bench, but they are not a bench. They are a fly tying station. But you and I, we have a quarrel too, because you call the desk that doesn't have the accoutrement, the cabinets and all of that a bench. So make your case. Why is that a bench?
Why is that a bench? The desk that doesn't have the cabinets?
Yeah.
Yeah. I find because it's just extended legs. The legs are just higher.
But isn't a bench, like, if you're benched on a hockey team or a football team, do you go and hop up on a 30-inch high piece of something, or do you sit down on something that's probably closer to 18 or 20? Yeah,
well, it's definitely 18 or 20. I mean, definitely, unless you're sitting in a high chair. Yeah.
Go ahead. So I think.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's funny. It's just all these misconceptions, but you're 100% right. I mean, a station where you're organized and it's, holds your tools is completely different than, it's not a bench, or it's not a bench top or a desk top. You know what I mean? It's just not, right? A desk to me has drawers, legs, a top, like, what did I say before? A place where I better not repeat that, but you know what I'm saying, right? Yeah. I mean, that's where we're at. But I love the clarity, and I mean, like, let's touch base more on this. So, what is this bench, in your opinion, as a furniture maker? Because, hell, man, I'm not a furniture maker. What is a bench?
A bench. So we'll get specific. A bench is something 18 inches high, 18 inches deep, approximately, where you sit down. Maybe if you're in an area that gets snow. It's where you sit down, you take off your boots, and you put your boots underneath it. Or it's a place where you go if you've been benched. But your bench, what you have called a bench, I think is a desk. Mm-hmm. Something that's 30 inches to, it could be as high as 36 inches if you're a tall guy, or if you want to tie at eye level. That's another thing about Tycraft, talking about the function of things, is that, a lot of people tie and they get that feeling in between their shoulder blades where it hurts, because they're hunched over. A desk doesn't have to be 30 inches. It can be 36, it can be 34, whatever the case may be. But between that 30, 36-inch range, I'll give you the no cabinet kind of deal. That can be a desk or whatever. But what people call a fly tying bench, yeah, I think that's a station. But you know what? I'll even give it. I'm all ears for another description. I'm totally cool with that. I don't want to do what some jerk somewhere did, and he made it a station, or he made it a bench, and now it's a bench forever. I'm not a dictator. I can be the furniture benevolent, diplomat in this. If there's someone out there that has a different idea of what it's workstation, workplace, whatever.
Workplace, I love that.
But
I'm going to my workplace, honey. Shut the door, grab a beer. I love it. That's great.
Totally.
Yeah,
but I'd be interested. Everybody out there in podcast land.
Yeah.
Comment. Tell us what we should call a place that your vise is mounted to, and it has all these nice holes that you could put your tools in, and maybe your beads and your hooks. What should that be called?
Definitely. I'm gonna make sure that they comment on your Instagram page. So, what?
Yeah, do that.
What
at Highcraft Desk.
Perfect. So let's get the roll or the thread going on that. What is it? Or can someone come up with something new? I do like the workplace.
Yeah. I'm
going to the workplace. So, it is kind of funny. So you do have these. What's it called? No, I'm confused. The stations. You do have the stations.
It's right. I threw you off. We kind of went down a language kind of society psychological. I mean, yeah, I can understand.
Yeah, but I'm back. So you have these stations, and what are like some of the features of the station, as well as you have was it safe to call it a caddy? The little block. What's the block that you have?
But so yeah, I mean, a lot of times when people do our desks or they do our stations,
yeah,
I got to make sure I don't call it a bench, because then I'll get some serious help. That creeps in. See, everybody else's adoption of the phrase starts to impact me too. Yeah. But yeah, sometimes when people do the desk or they do the station, they want something else to put their tools in. More often than not, it's the desk, and it's. I try and take a piece of the same piece of wood that I use to construct the top. I try and use that to construct a tool caddy that they can put their tools in and all of that. But as it relates to the tying station, when you're talking about the holes and all of that, and the caddies, actually, that's a very specific thing. When it relates to the desks, I think, everybody's preferences are aligned for the most part. Mm-hmm. The things appeal to people. There are commonalities, but as it relates to the bench, the left-handed, right-handed thing, and that can matter on the desk, but not as much. Whether or not, you were talking about having processes when you tie. Some people like to have 4 cups, if you will. They're routed into the piece of wood, so it's just kind of like a little hole there. Where you can have, say you're tying 18s and 20s, you can have size 18 hook, size 20 hook, and then the corresponding beads for those. Yeah. Some people like the magnets into the top. So what they do is they'll put the bead on the hook, and then they'll have them aligned and stacked up on the magnet there, so they can just grab it and boom, boom, boom. They put the beads on each one, and then they pull the hook with the bead off and start tying. But beyond that, man, it's really individualized. Some people like to have their tools on the side and not stored in there, and some people like to have them stored in there. So that's where the really consultative aspect to the business comes in. And what I like to do is I say, okay, so sit it wherever you normally tie, get all of the tools and all of the tools that you think you're going to need, and put them at arm's reach, like literally about 2 feet out, and then tie, a session, whatever you're going to tie at the time. And what are the tools that are now closer than an arm's distance away? Because those are the ones that you've used. And so now we hone in on those and say, okay, where are we going to put these? Because these are your most commonly used tools, and this is what you need. And how far is the furthest tool on the left that's not in that arm's, that's not in that 2 feet, but one that you used and you kind of brought closer? What's the distance between that furthest one on the left and the furthest one on the right? And we take a measurement of that and we say, okay, like, does this work? Even sometimes have people get out a piece of tape and then tape off that perimeter so they can actually look down and see what their station would look like from a dimensional perspective. Say, okay, is that going to work for you? Is that too big? Is that too small? And it's a way for me to be there, because my experience, with the custom furniture thing before I did this was, going out and meeting with people and sitting there and drawing something up and having a conversation, being there, seeing the space, and even taking out a piece of tape and taping out the silhouette of this piece that they think they want in these particular dimensions, and making sure that works with the egress in the home. When you're opening doors, would your door bump into this? If you're passing from this one place to this one place, is that piece of furniture going to get in the way? And so I bring that not only to the bench time, but also to the desk thing. Like, if someone's not sure, okay, I have the space, I think I want a desk, I think I want the one with the 2 cabinets, okay, that's going to be 82 inches. I want you to take a piece of tape that's 30 inches off the floor, and I want you to tape 82 inches across, and then I want you to tape down to meet the floor, and then I want you to tape the footprint of what that would be. So it's 24 inches deep. So I want you to do a rectangle on the floor it's 24 inches deep and 82 inches wide, and then people can really see that the manifestation of their vision. I can't necessarily make you a throwaway, and if you don't like it, then so be it. But this is an amazing way of accomplishing that, even if I can't come there and consult with you and be your interior designer in essence. So that really does hit at the heart of everything that we try and do. I mean, I talk to people and they're like, you just have so much energy. You love what you do. And it really, it's fun making, custom things for people, whether it's a desk or a bench, and walking them through all that. And like I said, when you get that text from someone and they're just so bleeping excited about getting it, it just really makes your day.
Yeah, Drew, I gotta agree with you. People that do say you have so much energy and you're passionate about what you do, which is why we're having this conversation, essentially. I mean, and how you do that with the laying it out with the tape. I mean, again, it's just, taking it to those levels that you never really would have thought of. So with that said, like, what's next? Like, let's do a projection. 5 years down the road, like, where would you like to see this brand, this business? Like, walk us through that.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to sound like I'm intent on taking over the world or anything, but I'm looking at this differently than I think someone else, if they had this idea and took it and ran. I'm creating a brand. I'm creating a pro team, a group of people who can help me get better at this. By their expertise and just consulting with me on what they think is the next step, what they want for their space. So, having people like Landon and Charlie Craven on this pro team. Like I said, having conversations with Blaine Chocolate, we'll see where that goes. But just really changing people's thoughts about their tying space. These people are going to help me by taking things to the next level and thinking about things because I don't have the level of success that they do. And so, working with these people to make a product that's so perfect for each individual person, not that I have the Model T, right? I want the version that's different for each person, and changing the way by having something that's customized for each person, changing the way that they think about tying. Because, this sounds stupid, but this is a refuge from the stress of daily life.
Oh, for sure. It's not stupid. This is totally sounds normal.
It I want people to consider having something like this as being a part of self-care. Mm-hmm. That sounds crazy, but it's a meditation. And when you, like I said, when you're surrounded by something that's made for you, you can be on the water in a gravel pit in the middle of a city, or you can be in a mountain stream. And whenever you're in that mountain stream and you're sitting there, fishing, you get lost, and you get lost in the art. And I just, my goal for 5 years is for this to become, ubiquitous amongst people, and something that they want, not because, it's keeping up with the Joneses or anything, but because they want a space for themselves, a space that's truly them, that's customized for them, that helps them get lost in the art.
Yeah, well said. Definitely. And that's what you offer, right? Truly unique pieces. I love them. I love where you're going with everything, and I think it's fantastic. I know that's why we're supportive of everything Tiecraft is doing. I know we've teamed up together to offer a giveaway on a product, which you'll have to go and check out the Instagram page. So, we'll run a contest, and you can win a piece of Tiecraft. Fantastic build right there. So I don't want to say too much more about it, except for go to the Instagram page, and it will be up when this podcast is running anyway. So, and Drew, I'm
really excited to do that. I think everybody out there is gonna love it.
Oh, absolutely. I wanted to give you the last word here. But before I did that, where can people find you at? Well,
on the World Wide Web, I am at ITIE-craft.com. On Instagram and Facebook at Tiecraft Desks, TIECRAFTDESKS. That's pretty much it. And one thing, if there's anybody out there that's looking to make one themselves, they're looking at creating something, or they want some advice on construction of their own. I don't want to sit there and monopolize it and say I'm not going to help out. I actually love to do that. So, if anybody has any questions about anything, I'd love to help out. If you have any questions about our desks, I'd love to help out on that as well. Just give me a shout.
Yeah, and I can contest that, because I've asked you about my desk and whatnot as well. So, really cool. Totally. Definitely. So, all right, guys. Hey, Drew, I definitely want to thank you, and I want to thank Tiecraft. Listeners, I want to thank you guys as well. You guys are all great. So, Drew, always a pleasure. I can't wait to see what happens. I can't wait to do this contest. Yeah. So, all right, guys. Thank you.
I'm looking forward to it, and thanks for the time.
Yeah, no worries, buddy. Anytime. You've been listening to the Fly Fishing Insider podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, tell us by liking this episode and subscribing to the show. Also, don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Fly Fishing Insider Podcast. See you next week.